called Ethiopia, a witness to the kingdom. If Christ is the foundation, then why does Ethiopia occupy such an important place within Scripture and within the consciousness of the African world? The answer is not because Ethiopia replaces Christ, but because throughout history God has often used particular nations and people as witnesses to his work. Israel was chosen to preserve the law and to prepare the way for the Messiah. After Christ's resurrection, the gospel spread through many nations, and Ethiopia was one of the earliest nations to receive and preserve the Christian faith. Psalm 68:31 declares, "Princes shall come out of Egypt. Ethiopia will soon stretch forth their hands unto God." In Acts chapter 8, an Ethiopian official traveled to Jerusalem to worship the God of Israel as they were doing since the days of Solomon and Sheba. And he was returning home, and an Ethiopian official was returning home from worshiping the God of Israel in Jerusalem, and he was reading the prophet Isaiah, scripture. When Philip, an apostle of Christ, found him, he asked him, "Do you understand what you're reading?" The official said, How can I understand what I'm reading if I don't understand how to interpret it?" He said, if I don't understand how to read, he meant interpret it. So Philip taught him how to interpret the scripture and explain how Christ fulfilled what was written in Isaiah about the great sign of a virgin bearing a child. And he explained the different ways to interpret scripture because he didn't understand how to read it. So it is more than a literalist, carnal interpretation. We have spiritual, we have symbolic, we have metaphysical, we have poetic. All these things are interwoven in the Bible. So there are multiple ways we have to, in order to understand the fullness, to interpret it. So, the Ethiopian believed and was baptized by Philip and returned to his homeland carrying the gospel. One of the first nations to receive it after Pentecost. Long before much of Europe embraced Christianity, Ethiopia had become one of the world's oldest continuous Christian civilizations, preserving the faith, the scriptures, and the sacred traditions through centuries of tremendous difficulty. Beyond its Christian witness, Ethiopia also stood as one of the great symbols of African independence. While much of Africa fell under colonial rule, Ethiopia remained an internationally recognized sovereign kingdom, except for the 5-year Italian occupation. For millions of African people living under slavery, segregation, and colonialism, Ethiopia became far more than a country on a map. It represented dignity, sovereignty, and hope. It reminded the African diaspora that their history did not begin with slavery, but stretched back to ancient civilizations, kingdoms, scholarship, and faith. Ethiopia became a living reminder that African people were capable of governing themselves, preserving their culture, and contributing to the advancement of humanity. This helps explain why Ethiopia occupied such an important place in the hearts of African people throughout the 20th century. It was not simply nationalism. It was the desire to reconnect with a history that had been hidden, distorted, or forgotten. Many looked toward Ethiopia because they saw in it a witness that African civilization, African Christianity, and African leadership had never been completely disappeared. As Rastafari, we recognize this witness with gratitude, but we also remember its proper order. Ethiopia points beyond itself. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church points beyond itself. His Imperial Majesty pointed beyond himself. Every true witness directs our attention ultimately to Jesus Christ, the King of Kings, Lord of Lords. And John the Baptist declared, "He must increase, but I must decrease." John 3:30. In the same way, the purpose of every faithful witness is to direct humanity towards Christ and his kingdom. While the witness decreases, Christ increases. That understanding allows us to honor Ethiopia's unique role in history without ever confusing the witness with the one to whom it bears witness. This is section 3 out of 9 sections, I believe.